Good morning, everybody. It is currently 8 in the morning and I just finished an hour meal prep. My name is Faith, for those of you who don't know me, and I have two little kids, a 3-year-old and a 5-month-old. And usually I spend about an hour to 2 hours a week just prepping some snacks, breakfasts, and stuff for lunches and dinner. Sometimes dessert because I love chocolate. And I thought I would just film it on my iPhone and show you what I did because it took me about an hour. And I have a snack, I have all my breakfasts prepped, and I have stuff for lunches and dinners. So let me show you guys what I did, and I hope it encourages you. I hope it gives you some inspiration for things that you can accomplish in about an hour if you're busy or have kids, so you can eat healthy and accomplish your goals.
Can we just start by excusing my ratty quarantine sweater? It's so bad. Okay, my biggest tip when doing meal prep is to think through what takes the longest to cook, or what can be the most hands-off that you need to get started so that while it's cooking or roasting, you can work on other things. So this week I decided to meal prep some spaghetti squash, which I haven't had in years, but it just sounded like a fun vegetable to have on hand. So I just cut it in half, very painfully with the very small knife I have in my sister's basement apartment. And then you're just gonna place it inside part down on a baking sheet and roast it in the oven. So just keep in mind, if you have a bigger family or want to have a lot more meal prepped than what I'm showing you, you can easily double, triple, quadruple all these recipes that I'm going to show you today. So you could do 2 or 3 spaghetti squash, and that would last you a lot longer than just one. But I just put that in the oven to get started while I prepped some sweet potatoes, just because I love sweet potatoes. You could do white potatoes, you could do roasted veggies instead. Again, I am struggling with this really little knife and did not feel like going up to get her bigger knife upstairs, so be careful while you're chopping, but I am just cutting my sweet potatoes in half so they cook longer instead of roasting them whole. So I also just put them inside part down onto a silicone baking mat, and then just like the spaghetti squash, I poked holes in the tops just to help them cook faster and to allow steam to come out of them. I love having sweet potatoes on hand throughout the week for just a carb source that's ready to go, doesn't require any prep work. They can go for a sweet meal or a savory meal. Yeah, they're just really great to have on hand. Now that I've got my squash and sweet potatoes in the oven, I can move on to prepping some other things for the rest of the week. One snack that I always have on hand, as you guys know by now, are protein balls. And these ones use a vegan protein powder from Women's Best, the chocolate flavor. I hate protein powder, you guys, but for some reason, my sister introduced me to this recipe and I love it more than my other recipe that I've shared with you guys a couple of times. This recipe starts out with a base of quick oats and then a scoop and a half of the vegan Women's Best chocolate protein powder. You could use whatever protein powder you have on hand, but I just know that this protein powder specifically goes great in these peanut butter balls. And then this isn't necessary, but I like to add in ground flaxseed before adding in the sweetener, which I use honey and a lot of natural peanut butter. And then you're just going to stir this all together until a sticky dough forms. Because I add the ground flaxseed, my dough is a lot denser and a little less runny, but it still is amazing. You could always leave out the ground flaxseed or just add in some more peanut butter if you need to. Just kind of see what the texture is like before using your hands to roll it into balls, whatever size you want. You could also pat this dough into a rectangle and cut it into granola bars. You could drizzle them with a little chocolate. You could add in some texture with nuts or chocolate chips or raisins or dried fruit. The possibilities are endless, and these are so good. So if you too hate protein powder, I definitely recommend just trying out this recipe. It's so good. I have one a day and look forward to it every morning with my coffee. I usually get about 20 balls per batch, and they have about 6-7 grams of protein in each one, which is great. Now, while I had my oats and my ground flaxseed out, I just went ahead and prepped my breakfast. So I eat the same breakfast every morning. It's a chocolate oatmeal bowl with oats, and then I add in ground flaxseed and cocoa powder and chia seeds and a pinch of salt and a little cinnamon, and all those things make it so delicious, but it takes me a bit of time in the morning to measure everything out, and so I decided to make little, basically oatmeal packets. And I'm putting all the ingredients I use in jars, and as you just saw, I actually used an almost empty peanut butter jar for one of the jars, which is just a little trick to use up all your peanut butter or whatever nut butter you're almost done with and add a little more flavor. So as you can see, in each jar I've got a half cup of quick oats, and then I add a tablespoon of ground flaxseed, and then a tablespoon of cocoa powder, pinch of salt, pinch of cinnamon, and then I almost left out my teaspoon of chia seed, so I added that in. And then you're just gonna put the lid on or seal your baggie, whatever you're using. And I like to mix mine up just so that everything's well combined. And then you can just store these in the fridge, or if you're not using ground flaxseed, they're probably fine at room temperature. So there's my little oatmeal packet. And then you can either make hot oatmeal, or like I'm doing here, I'm making some overnight oats by adding in some milk. And then you just stir it well and let it sit overnight, and then the next day it will be thick and creamy, and you can pour it into a bowl and add whatever toppings or just eat it out of the jar. The other ones I left to make hot oatmeal the rest of the week, but it was nice to have a little variety. So you could make as many jars or baggies as you need depending on the size of your family, and that really helped my mornings run more smoothly. Okay, this next recipe is so easy, but I'm kind of obsessed with it at the moment. It is basically like a bean salad. So think chicken salad or tuna salad. Basically take a can of chickpeas or white beans and you're gonna mash it up a little bit. Not completely, you don't want to paste. And then season those beans with a little salt and pepper or whatever you have on hand. And then you're just gonna stir in some store-bought hummus. And this makes it really creamy and flavorful. This has been my go-to lunch option lately. I can use it on an open-faced toast or make sandwiches with it, or I can add it on top of salad. It's just so handy to have on hand, and while it doesn't look very pretty, it's so flavorful. I've been making this nonstop. So much protein in there, a lot of flavor, and it's just a great thing to have on hand. So by this point, your spaghetti squash should be nice and tender and easily pierced with a knife. And as you can see here, when you use a fork and kind of scrape at it, it turns into spaghetti, which is so fun to have on hand. It's a fun way to eat vegetables in like a pasta dish, or you can add it onto Buddha bowls or salads. I'll show you guys how I use it later in the week, but you can be creative. And because we cut the sweet potatoes in half, they should be done by now as well, and they're just a great carb source to have on hand to help bulk up your lunches and dinners throughout the week. So as you can see, I'm going to show you how I used all these ingredients and recipes throughout the week. This is the jar of overnight oats. As you can see, it got really thick. My husband actually ended up eating this. He just poured it into a bowl and topped it with more peanut butter, of course, and banana, and thoroughly enjoyed that. I, on the other hand, wanted some hot oatmeal, so I just grabbed a packet, or a jar, I guess, of my oatmeal, poured it into my saucepan, added my water, or you could add non-dairy milk, and it just made my morning so much quicker, not having to measure all the ingredients out individually. And as you can see, I like to sweeten my oats with half of a mashed banana, and it looks soupy at first, but then it will thicken up because of the chia seeds and the flax seeds. And this cut off about 10 minutes of my morning so I could do other things with my life, and I could still enjoy my thick, creamy bowl of oatmeal with peanut butter. And I always like to add something crunchy to the top of my oatmeal, so I have some homemade granola on top, or cacao nibs would be great. I'll leave the exact recipe for this bowl of oatmeal down in the description box because I literally eat it every day. So for a lunch, we had salad one day, and I feel like this video is a great way for me to show how I use store-bought foods and meal prepped items to create healthy meals. So I just grabbed some lettuce that was pre-washed and added on some canned chickpeas. Used a vegan Caesar dressing from Trader Joe's, but you really can use whatever dressing you want. And that just made a quick and easy salad. And then the sweet potato was already ready, so I just grabbed it for a healthy carb source that would keep me full and satisfied all afternoon long. Now, my favorite thing to do with the bean hummus mash, I guess you could call it, is to make a sandwich, or in my case, I love to make open-faced sandwiches. I feel like I can add more toppings and eat more food. So I just toasted some bread, and then I smeared on the bean mash, and then I added on some pickled onions from dinner the night before, so I added that on, and some cucumber, and this just made a hearty, delicious lunch. And if you were packing it to go, you could easily make a sandwich and wrap it up so that it stays together well, but yes, we are currently loving this lunch option. For the spaghetti squash, there are so many things you could do with this. You definitely want to bulk it up. At least I recommend that because spaghetti squash is low-calorie food, and if you don't add a lot to it, then you'll be hungry an hour later. So I ended up doing like a Mexican casserole with the spaghetti squash, enchilada sauce, and then you could either just do black beans, which would be really easy, or I had some tempeh taco meat in the fridge. So I just stirred that all together, and then to make it extra special and a little more exciting, I poured this into a baking dish and I topped it with some vegan cheddar cheese and I baked it in the oven. Another thing you could do is do kind of like an Italian style spaghetti squash casserole. So instead of enchilada sauce, you could do marinara sauce with some white beans or vegan chicken and then top it with mozzarella cheese. But we absolutely loved this Mexican casserole. My husband loved it, I loved it, and even my daughter gobbled it all up. I gave her quite a big portion. We topped it with some avocado and then fresh salsa or cilantro would be amazing, but having this spaghetti squash already cooked made dinner so easy, and I definitely recommend giving this a try. I really hope that these 5 simple recipes that took me about an hour to prep gave you some inspiration for your week and just showed you how quick and easy it can be to eat a plant-based diet if you just put a little time into your food at the start of the week. I'll leave all the recipes down below or links to the recipes I used, and I would love to hear from you if you enjoyed this 1-hour meal prep or what other kinds of meal preps you'd be interested in seeing. If you enjoyed this video, please be sure to give it a thumbs up because it helps my channel and it also helps me know that you enjoyed this kind of content. Subscribe so you don't miss the next video, and I will see you guys very soon. Bye!